All right, we have SPL week 5. We are currently 3-1 in the season 3 of the SPL, and we are going up against Nexus and the Toronto Tyrants. I'm a little bit sick while recording this, so I do apologize for the commentary, but I tried to record this at the last minute as possible before this goes up. But yes, I am sick, and I was sick while playing, and I was not going to commentate during that one because that would have been rough. But let's quickly go over the team as we got a few changes, and let's get into the battle afterward. All right, let's go over the team real quick. We'll be bringing to Nexus as well as a few roster changes for the Jubilife Piplups. We have Golden Go Dundozo, Glamora Tinglu with Fletchender and Tatsugiri as always, but we have 3 new members. Originally we had Meowscarada, the Tauros Paldea Fire, as well as Enamorous Incarnate. That is now going to be swapped by Galarian, Zapdos, Screamtail, and Shaman. And this will be my final changes to the team in general. I thought that Enamorous, Meowscarada, as well as Tauros, they were being brought into matches, but they weren't really impressing me. I thought like theoretically they were really good, but in practice, I just felt like they were kind of underwhelming me. And talking with a good friend of mine, NJ11, who at Vancouver was talking to me about draft, and we've both thought like, yeah, like Galar Zapdos was probably really underrated going into it, as I wanted a stronger fighting type to pair with Golden Go. Screamtail, I think, just provided so much support. There's a lot of different modes that will probably be seen later on, because I think this mon's absolutely insane, and I was surprised it wasn't even picked in the initial draft season. And then, you know, I needed a grass type still so I could pressure water types, and I don't really like how Meowscarada plays. It just feels like it's very offensive and like takes a lot of risk, and I really wanted more stats in general. So Shaman was the last one for the grass type, and I thought, you know what, this actually works out pretty well, so might as well. There's also a few strats I do have with Shaman in mind, so we'll see if we'll be able to bring any, but that is going to be the new Jubilife Piplups roster. And then we have Nexus, coach of the Toronto Tyrants, with the Iron Hands, Torkoal, Hisuian Lilligant, Porygon 2, Walking Way, Clefable, Charizard, Malamar, Bruxish, and Crabominable. Now, we disrespected Sleep Powder a bit against Keely in week 4. I'm not making that mistake in game 5. So this is the team I created. I have an hour of prep like I do for all the team weeks, and that was my challenge going into the draft, as well as I was sick during this draft, or this draft week. So I'm not sure if this was my best ideas looking back at it, and I'm still sick while commentating, obviously, but you know what? We'll see how it goes. We have the Screamtail, Galar, Zapdos, Tinglu, Golden Go, Rupee, Tatsugiri, and Shaman. 3 of the new members being thrown right into it. So the idea of this team concept involves the Tinglu especially, paired with either Galar, Zapdos, and the Screamtail. Let's start breaking down the sets and then get into the ideas. We have the Screamtail with the safety goggles. This is for the Lilligant. I'm not falling for Sleep Powder this time around. Photosynthesis is great because Nexus does have Sun. So if you bring the Torkoal, I'm actually going to get a special defense booster with how the Screamtail was EV'd. And I do also have a lot of speed. So the reason I have this speed is to outspeed Modest Max Speed Walking Wake, because the Pokemon that I think that Nexus is going to most likely bring, I think Iron Hands, Torkoal, Hisuian Lilligant, Porygon 2, Walking Wake are all coming. I think those 5 are really solid. And then the last one, I would probably say it's between like Clefable and Malamar personally. I think Clefable with Unaware makes a lot of sense for the Dundozo mode, and Malamar has Topsy-Turvy and Superpower Contrary could actually be really good against my team. So that's what I expected. Was expecting Charizard to be brought, and I don't expect a crap at all. So having the Screamtail I thought was pretty good, and I think if they did go with the Walking Wake, I'd probably say it'd be Special Attack Booster because it's easy to break through Dundozo that way. That's why I EV'd the Screamtail like I did, because I need this amount of special defense with the Calm Nature in order to have 1 point more than my speed, which is again to outspeed the Walking Wake, and that was the idea, having the special defense booster. So it's great into the Torkoal in general, as well as the Walking Wake combos, but still very disruptive with the Encore Disable. And a lot of this idea is trapping it, especially with Screamtail next to the Tinglu. And this Tinglu has the Sand Tomb, Ruination, Taunt, Protect, pretty standard VGC set, except it's running Cover Cloak over the Rocky Helmet just to cover it. The Iron Hands is running the Solvest Fake Out set to help support Trick Room, or it was going to be Booster Energy. I knew Iron Hands was going to run one of the two. So we have the Tinglu with the Taunt, Cover Cloak. So if they lead Iron Hands in a Porygon 2, I have the Taunt. I can just go for straight into the Porygon 2 and deny the Trick Room. And I have Encore Disable options with the Scream Tail as well as Sand Tomb trapping them in, and then Ruination chipping them down. That was like a big concept of what this build was supposed to be. Air Poison's a really good defensive typing, allows me to resist the Hisuian Lilligant and the Iron Hands fighting type attacks, which is pretty valuable while being a good neutral typing across the board. Having max special defense to take on the special attacks better, and still having a good amount of physical defense again to take on the Iron Hands especially. And a lot of concept with the Tinglu is with the Galar Zapdos as well, because my main lead, if there was the Hisuian Lilligant and the Iron Hands with the Torkoal and the Porygon 2 modes, we're going to be the Lumberry Galar Zapdos with the Defiant and the Terra Fighting. I just needed a good neutral typing, and I thought, you know, might as well have a bit more offense. And I thought it would work out pretty well because close combat, able to hit the Porygon 2, that Terra Fighting for extra damage potentially to threaten it if they run more especially defensive to take on the Golden Go. I do have the dual wing beats to break through the Hisuian Lilligant's Focus Sash. Bulk Up is a really cool option because if they lead Iron Hands plus the Porygon 2, I'm able to go for a Bulk Up to take the Wall Charge from the Iron Hands, and then I could taunt with the Tinglu. And if they fake out the Tinglu, it's even a better spot. So a lot of ways to cover it, as well as just boost up the defense, boost up the attack. I'm able to dish out a lot of damage with a +1 close combat. And again, if they lead the Torkoal Lilligant mode, I do have the dual wing beats to take the knockout into the Hisuian Lilligant. The EV spread allows me to survive a Terrifier Charcoal Eruption in the sun from the Torkoal with the Tinglu's Vessel Ruin. So if they do lead that and go for the after you Terrifier Eruption, I am able to survive that, go for a dual wing beat, and then I'm in a really good spot. And I thought they wouldn't be Specs Torkoal most likely because I thought they would run potentially Clear Smog or the Dundozo, so that's why I decided to just invest for that much amount right there. But yeah, I thought the Zapdos Galar plus Tinglu lead was a great combo into both the most likely potential leads that my opponent was going to bring. Then of course we have the Nasty Plow Golden Go. It's pretty standard, just max special attack. I don't really need speed again. I'm thinking that most likely going to be encountering the Tricker Mood, and most of the opponent's Pokemon are just going to be faster than mine anyway, so I don't really need to invest speed on the rest. We have the Make It Rain Shadow Ball Nasty Plow Protect. Just hits pretty hard across the board. Terrify is going to be defensive typing because it's great into the Walking Wake, especially paired with the Storm Drain Tatsugiri. And we are bringing solo Tatsugiri just to help out against that Walking Wake because I thought that was probably going to be the biggest threat that was going to be brought. And I needed a secondary answer, so I thought, why not go Focus Sash just so I could always switch or take it one hit from the Walking Wake so I can pressure it. And then Draco Meteor to counter back with the Terra Dragon in case I need the extra power. And then this is just a funny Tatsugiri set. I just thought it would be funny. Counter Mirror Code. I thought I could run Rain Dance Taunt. I thought I could run Icy Wind or Rapid Spin. So like Tatsugiri would always outspeed the Wake because again, I'm expecting special attack booster. But you know, at the end of the day, I'm like, I'll just run Counter Mirror Code because I saw it in Builder and it looked funny. So why not? And then finally the Shaman with the Natural Cure and the Terra Fairy running the Assault Vest. And I thought, I'm not sure which one I should bring. Like, Limora looks really good on paper, but I thought I needed an extra switch into an electric move from Iron Hands. So I thought, you know, I'll run the Shaman. It's decent into the sun because I could go for like Play Rough Quick Attack, double up into the Lilligant to get around Focus Ashes. Seed Bomb is able to do some chip damage into the Walking Wake, which is nice, as well as Earth Power to hit the Iron Hands and the Torkoal, as well as a Mixed Nature. So might as well just go for it. Again, I don't need speed because I am expected to Trick Room most likely. And yeah, that is going to be the 6 we are bringing to Nexus. Do I think it's the most solid build I could have came up with? No, definitely not. But will it work? We'll find out. By the way, make sure you go check out Nexus's channel. Really funny dude, and I actually do really enjoy watching his Craft League content. So make sure you go check him out, as well as the other coaches of the SPL. Very talented creators we have. Let's get into the games. We have the Clefable Charizard, Porygon 2, Torkoal, Iron Hands, and the Walking Wake. So I got most of it right. I was not expecting no Lilligant and Charizard instead. So Charizard is a big threat to what I brought. I have no rock moves. I have very little to touch this Charizard. I'm like, oh no, this is bad. This is bad. So yeah, Charizard's a bit of a threat. I'm going to have to hope that I can bluff through the Charizard if they do bring the Charizard. And yeah, it's not looking too hot here, but I was originally going to bring Zapdos Galar to cover for the Lilligant mode as well as the Iron Hands mode. But yeah, it's gonna be a lot tougher. So I am deciding on the fly. I'm gonna lead Screamtail Tinglu because it's a better trapper into the Tinglu Porygon 2 mode. And yeah, like unfortunately, the Galar Zapdos doesn't do enough damage to the Charizard. They have access to flying type attacks. It's not as great. So if it is like a choice Charizard, I could go for Disable at least, which could slow it down on the positive and have the special defense booster because they give the Sun with the Torkoal. So that was basically the idea here. As we're gonna see Iron Hands Clefable, and I'm like, what is this lead? It's this setup? I was very shocked to see this lead. So Vessel Ruin activates, and we're gonna see that the Iron Hands does reveal it is booster energy. But the fact that the Clefable is in makes me think that this is set up Iron Hands, which is not what I expected because there is the Dundozo I could have brought with the Unaware. So I'm like, okay, if this is set up, I'm gonna read the Follow Me. I think I have to. Like, I thought about switching into Golden Go, but I'm like, I kind of need the momentum, and I kind of have to get this turn right. So this lead really signals Follow Me in some kind of setup from Iron Hands, whether it was Swords Dance or Belly Drum. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go for Disable and Sand Tomb. If they don't follow me, I get the Sand Tomb into the Iron Hands at least. And if they go for a fighting move, most likely into Tinglu, I can Encore it, which is cool. And if they go for Follow Me, I trap into Clefable that can't go for Follow Me, plus the Sand Tomb chips it away. Then I can Encore the Iron Hands into whatever setup move it is. So that's the idea. Follow Me does come out from the Clefable, and this is perfect here as I am able to get the Disable off with the Screamtail into the Clefable. Now the Clefable cannot go for a Follow Me the next turn, and now Iron Hands does reveal Swords Dance. So I'm like, okay, this is perfect. If I hit the Sand Tomb, I'm in an incredible spot, and I do hit the Sand Tomb. So the Clefable's trapped in, cannot switch out, and now the Iron Hands will be locked into Swords Dance if I get the Encore off next turn into Iron Hands. We already saw booster energy, so I don't have to worry about any shenanigans. Go for the Encore into the Iron Hands, and we are going to go for Sand Tomb and Iron Hands. If they switch out, I trap in whatever comes in, unless it's Charizard. But I do feel like if there is Charizard, there's at least no Torkoal that could switch in because the Clefable is trapped. So I'm in a phenomenal spot. Like, this is an incredible position for me. So all I have to do is just wear down this team. As I said before, the Screamtail plus the Tinglu mode was specifically designed to chip away at my opponent's team and be very disruptive. So that is the idea. Go for the Encore Disable, as I'm trying to think, okay, like, this is looking like a pretty good start. I don't know if Porygon 2's in the back with Torkoal. That would be my guess. If it is Charizard, will be a bit scary, but we'll see. But I am able to Encore the Iron Hands into the Swords Dance, and that's such a good position for me. That's so good. The Iron Hands is going to be trapped in, taking Sand Tomb damage. We're going to see a Moonblast, but with the Vessel of Ruin, it's not doing any damage to my special defensive Screamtail, as this Sand Tomb just does a decent amount to the Iron Hands, and that chip damage is just adding up onto my opponent's side. And now I'm like, okay, some free Ruinations and some Dazzling Gleams. I just got to make sure I time my turns correctly. From the Disable for the Follow Me to the Encore, I just got to make sure that I do have this position set up. They have 2 turns of this set up, and I'm like, okay, I can afford to go for the chip damage here. I'm just going to go for Dazzling Gleam and Ruination. It covers any Terra. If they want to go for the Terra on Iron Hands, they revealed that they were going to be the Terra Poison on the Iron Hands. So I'm really not concerned about the Iron Hands. The Clefable's Terra Water, but it shouldn't matter too much, as we will be seeing another Swords Dance that the Iron Hands is locked in. And Moonblast is going to come out once again into Screamtail, but that Vessel of Ruin just putting in so much work. Ruination, chipping away the Iron Hands even further. And look at how low that Iron Hands is. It's absolutely beautiful. And afterward, a Sand Tomb knocks it out after Dazzling Gleam next turn. And I don't even have to worry about this Iron Hands realistically. So it is locked in from one more turn, but that Iron Hands is only going to have one more turn on this battlefield. So I go for the Dazzling Gleam to pick up the knockout, and I'm like, okay, what am I doing with the Tinglu here? As there's not really much that I could do. I was thinking like, okay, do I set up something here? I need to stay in to make sure the Sand Tomb does pick up the knockouts, as well as keep that trapping available. So I just decide, hey, I'm going to go for more damage in the Clefable, because the damage might actually still KO the Clefable. Clefable goes for Protect. I'm like, ooh, I can Encore that the next turn, because I'm pretty sure the Follow Me is disabled for one more turn. As we go for Dazzling Gleam and just pick up the knockout into Iron Hands. So Iron Hands goes down, which is an amazing spot for me, as no Iron Hands is fantastic, as Sand Tomb going to come out into the Clefable's Protect. But we're looking like in a pretty good spot now, as Clefable's still taking a bit of chip damage. As you can see, haven't really taken any damage on my side of the field. They have lost their Iron Hands and a very weak Clefable. It is looking beautiful. Walking Wake gonna come in. I'm like, okay, Walking Wake Torkoal, I am fine with that in the back. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna Encore the Clefable into Protect because can't go for Follow Me. I could just Encore guarantee it into Protect while it's still trapped, and I'm gonna trap into Walking Wake, and then I could go for like Encore Disable the following turn. The Wake is gonna protect. I'm like, oh, this is so perfect. I'm like, this is so perfect. I get the Encore off the Clefable. It is now locked into Protect, and all I have to do is focus down on that Walking Wake. So if you're unfamiliar with VGC, you gotta know how to play around Encore Disable, especially Screen Tail. It is very disruptive here, as you know, I don't have a Gothitelle that's trapping them in, but you know what? The Sand Tomb is doing some good work here. The Fable's no longer disabled, but it's locked into the... It is no longer able to go for Follow Me anyway, because I did Encore you. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to Encore the Walking Wake, and I'm just going to get some chip damage into the Walking Wake, because that's all I really need here. So that was the idea, and yeah, I don't really have to worry about the Clefable slot, so this is absolutely perfect for me. I'm just gonna get damage onto that Walking Wake and hopefully lock it into the Encore if my calculations were, or my predictions were as anticipated, and they brought the modest Walking Wake over the timid one, as that would give me a lot of benefit because Scream Tail naturally outspeeds Walking Wake. We're gonna see a Terra come out from their side, and I'm like, okay, I was not expecting the Terra here from the Walking Wake. It is going to Terra into Dragon, but like, are you really going to Terra Dragon Draco Meteor, I guess? Like, I was kind of surprised about this, but I was like, okay. Clefable forced to go for the Protect here from the Encore, and it was locked in. And Hydro Steam going to come out. I'm like, okay, that's an interesting decision, but sure. Does nothing to Tinglu, which is absolutely insane. But what was weird is it is actually timid Walking Wake, so it outsped my Scream Tail, so that's good information to note. Kind of actually makes this matchup a lot harder, because I would have loved to be faster than the Walking Wake. That was the idea, but the fact that the Walking Wake's actually running max speed is a bit problematic. But I do trap in the Walking Wake, and it is now locked into the Hydro Steam, so I could actually go for Disable and Walking Wake. We saw how little damage it did. Clefable is no longer trapped though. It is still locked into Protect, but if they go Torkoal, I'm like, okay, they do a bit more damage, but we saw how little the Hydro Steam did. Even if they get the boost with the special attack, if they do have timid special attack booster, which I think is possible, as well as like, yeah, like with the Sun boost, it's just not gonna do that much to my Tinglu and the Screen Tail before I get Disable off, and then it's like really bad. They switch out and they reveal it's Charizard in back, so no Torkoal at all. That really caught me off guard, but I'm like, okay, I'll gladly take it. It's Hydro Steam, chip away the Tinglu. As you can see, still not doing any damage. Now the Walking Wake is going to be disabled here, and I will be able to get a Ruination off into the Walking Wake, and it's like, oh, this is so perfect. The Wake has to struggle, like literally has to struggle here, which is absolutely beautiful. And now all I have to do is figure out like how I'm beating this Charizard. Like, I know that I don't have any offensive pressure against the Charizard with my lead, so I'm like, all right, let's Protect, let's get a Ruination off, let's see what this Charizard's going for. I'm hoping it's modest Charizard, but I do think it might be timid if he did decide to run timid on the Walking Wake. And then we do confirm it, the Charizard outspeeds the Walking Wake. And yeah, I don't know if they're even max speed timid Wake or not. I don't know the Charizard Scarf, but yeah, definitely some interesting numbers to account for. The struggle actually hits into my Tinglu, which is perfect because that meant the Wake goes down, and I do get a Ruination off into Charizard here, which means I am going to be able to just really be put in a dominant spot to clean up the game. All I have to do is get rid of Clefable, and once I get rid of Clefable, the Charizard should just lose to Tatsugiri, assuming no really brutal RNG, I think, as the Clefable comes out. But I'm like, okay, the Clefable's just so low at this point. I'm gonna go for Dazzling Gleam and just chip him away, and I'm gonna go for another Ruination to Charizard, because I'm like, does Heat Wave even do that much damage to my Scream Tail with the Vessel Ruin? And it crits my Scream Tail, still doesn't do that crazy amount of damage. Dazzling Gleam for the chip damage. I am able to get a Ruination off as they go for the Moonblast. As you can see, it's just not doing any damage with the Vessel Ruin, but I do miss the Ruination to Charizard, which actually kind of stinks. It might have put in range of a Dazzling Gleam into a switch out Dazzling Gleam, because the Vessel Ruin would no longer be active. But At this point, I'm like, yeah, you still can't really break through the Scream Tail while the Vessel of Ruin is still active. So all I have to do is just make sure the Vessel of Ruin is still active. I'm pretty sure Dazzling Gleam is going to KO the Clefable even if they protect this turn. I still go for the next turn because Charizard can't Revenge KO back. I'm like, okay. The Heat Wave, as you can see, is just doing very little damage. I'm able to get Dazzling Gleam off into the Clefable, and I'm like, okay, I knock out the Clefable. The game's over with Tatsugiri, assuming I hit one of my Dracos and they'll get super unlucky. So here I'm like, I'm pretty sure I live even if I switch out in Tatsugiri. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go Tatsugiri. I'm gonna go for the Encore into the Charizard to make it locked into the Heat Wave so it can't touch my Tatsugiri, just in case it is in Scarf. Heat Wave is gonna come out, but as you can see, Screamtail is able to tank the attack just fine because regular Charizard with no sun, not really that great. Encore into the Charizard. It burned my Tatsugiri, but it's like, okay, just hit the Draco. Just hit the Draco. All I need to do, hit one Draco Meteor Tatsugiri. I do have to reveal that I'm not Scarf Tatsugiri, which is a bit unfortunate because I would have liked to keep that Scarf Tatsugiri possibility in mind because it would have affected some other plays down the road. But Heat Wave is going to come out from the Charizard. I am going to go for Protect because there is differential. So I will make sure that Screamtail is still around. And really it just comes out to Tatsugiri. Hey, Draco Meteors. We do connect with a Draco. We KO the Charizard. And that is a 4-0 victory, which was not how I expected this match to go. But I was like, yeah, Screamtail Tingaloo. Pretty good. Pretty good. And I'm like, okay, this is actually working out pretty well. I don't think that's going to work for game 2. I think it worked because like I kind of aggressively read the redirection plus setup on the hands after seeing the lead. And I'm like, okay, that's not going to work the second time. I don't know what they're exactly going to lead game 2. But I'm like, okay, I could see Walking Wake lead, and I'm like, okay, I didn't reveal the Golden Go. I don't need to tear on Tinglu because if it is Booster Energy Attack Source in hands, I think it's Drain Punch and not Close Combat, which means I don't need to Terra as much on the Tinglu as I would have. So I'm like, okay, I could probably afford to Terra Golden Go, and I'm like, probably the best setup is to Terra the Golden Go realistically in the upcoming game, especially against the Walking Wake. So I just decided, hey, I'm going to lead Golden Go. And I was debating about either Golden Go Screamtail or Golden Go Tatsugiri immediately. The reason Tatsugiri is just I don't have to play like a switch out mind game, which felt like could be a big factor. And I threatened the Walking Wake immediately. If they lead Clefable plus Walking Wake, I can threaten Make It Rain and Draco Meteor right off the bat. I can also threaten a Lights, or not Light Screen, Mirror Coat with the Tatsugiri. So I'm like, oh, that could be really fun. And you know what, that does sound pretty fun, and I might as well, like the Screamtail Tinglu could actually clean up in the back once they actually go for attacks and I could lock them in. I'm in a good spot. It's going to be a lot harder of a game compared to game 1, but I'm like, you know, I think this could work. Also, I just don't like Shaman. If I had a way to touch Charizard, I could probably bring Shaman, but I don't have any way to touch. Maybe I should have gone like Terra Rock, Terra Blast or something. And then yeah, like that was pretty much all I wanted. So game 2, Walking Wake Charizard. I'm like, this position is pretty bad because I'm assuming it's like Torkoal Iron Hands potentially afterward, and I'm like, oh, solar powered Charizard, that is not gonna be fun. That is not gonna be fun. So I'm trying to figure out how I maneuver. I'm debating about going for Double Protect here, and I felt like Double Protect is probably the best option just to scout for like what they decide. Hey, I'm gonna click here. We know the Walking Wake isn't choice locked, and we know it's not Booster Energy, so I'm kind of curious on what the item on Wake is, but I really just am debating about going for the Double Protect. I also thought about going for an aggressive Terra Fire play immediately with Golden Go and protecting the Tatsugiri, but I feel like I just want to scout for what the option is here, because there's a chance they don't even go for a fire move into the Golden Go. There's a chance they go for an aggressive like Draco Meteor, reading my Terra Fire on the Golden Go, because they do know that I am Terra Fire on the Golden Go. I know the Charizard is Terra Fire and the Walking Wake is Terra Dragon, so I'm not really too concerned about them at the moment, but this is a pretty rough lead. But they do decide, hey, I'm going to withdraw the Walking Wake here, and I'm like, I am very happy with that. Clefable comes out. I'm like, ooh, this is interesting. This is very interesting, so I will take that as I go for the Protect with the Tatsugiri, and I go for the Protect with the Golden Go. So I'm like, interesting position. This is not what I expected, but hey, it might work out, as we're going to see Heat Wave come out from the Charizard into the Golden Go and the Tatsugiri, and I'm like, I don't mind this because Terrifier Golden Go will wall these Pokemon, and I am completely happy with that. So I have a few plays. I could go for Draco Meteor immediately, or I could switch out. I thought my best play is always just to Terrifier Nasty Plot because it's a great defensive typing here, and go Tinglu. And you might be thinking, why go Tinglu here when you have a special attacker? Well, I'm not attacking this turn, and the idea here is to lower the special attack damage that I'm taking with my Golden Go because I am Life Orb. It is on a timer. So bring in the Tinglu, reduce the damage. They decide, hey, the Terrifier is so obvious, I'm going to switch into Iron Hands. This also covers like a random power gem from Golden Go, which it can go for. And yeah, so we see all 4 Pokemon revealed. No Torkoal again, which is super interesting, but I'm very happy with no Torkoal in this match. As we get to bring out the Tinglu, again, it was to reduce the special attack damage that they could provide. The Clefable is either going to Terra Water Moonblast or Protect most likely here, as I do go for the Terrifier. And what's nice is this isn't a Assault Vest Iron Hand, so all I need to do is just, I will do a lot of damage with a +2 Make It Rain with Life Orb. It will do a ton of damage. It's not Assault Vest Iron Hands that we commonly see in VGC. So Protect is going to come out from the Clefable. I'm like, yeah, this is a pretty nice spot. I will gladly take the spot. As a free Nasty Plot, sure thing. Sure thing. And I'm like, okay. There's really no switches they have to Make It Rain. I will go for Make It Rain. If they want to Terra Water the Clefable, so be it. Then they have no Dragon immunity, so Draco Meteor is going to hit pretty hard. And I'm going to switch on my Tinglu because I'm actually trying to do damage on the board and go into Scream Tail. It covers a fighting type attack from the Iron Hands, but also gets myself into position for Encore and Disables in the future turns of the game. So right now, it wasn't the best start, but I'm really liking the spot we're currently in. And all I need to do is just force some damage across, get rid of these potential paths to the hard threats again, which are going to be the Charizard and the Walkie Awake. But if I have the advantage on resources, I can plan accordingly to handle them in the end. So all I have to do, fire off a big Make It Rain, and we'll see. I also thought about going for another Nasty Plot, but I don't know if this is close combat. I mean, I really think it should be Drain Punch on the Iron Hands, but I just want to cover the close combat just in case. As we see the Terra on the Clefable going to be Terra Water. So the Terra has been used on the Clefable. Does make sense. It was like their only defensive typing in the game. So I'm like perfectly happy with this. I'm able to see a Follow Me come out from the Clefable. Covers a Shadow Ball option. But I am just going to be able to fire off a very powerful Make It Rain into the Iron Hands. And look at how much damage that does. And I'm like, okay, Dazzling Gleam, Make It Rain definitely gets to knock on Iron Hands. They have no switch-ins available afterward. Looking like in a good spot. And Thunder Punch is going to come out of Golden Go, but nowhere near enough damage. I'm like, okay, beautiful. No para. I debate about protecting here just to scout for things, but I'm like, you know, I don't think I should protect. I think I should take the offensive initiative. Dazzling Gleam, Make It Rain will still do a good amount of damage to Clefable. And yeah, like they got to be worried about Encores. They got to be worried about Disables. And I'm like, okay, I might as well just go for damage because if I do get knockouts onto Iron Hands, it's still a pretty nice trade across the board because like Scream Tail will be able to do quite a bit in the end game just because of its pure fairy typing. Dazzling Gleam is still going to be chipping away, and Encore Disable is still a threat on the board. So very happy about the spot. As we see the Iron Hands retreat, I'm like, maybe expecting a protect so I could go for like Encore Disables, but I'm like, oh, I get a big amount of damage to the Charizard, and that's always beautiful as the Clefable goes for protect. I'm like, I can Encore that the next turn, so I'm very happy with the spot as I go for Dazzling Gleam, gets a chip damage to the Charizard. And I'm like, oh, this Charizard's gonna take a bunch of damage. I was calculating the Make It Rain damage to the Charizard. +2 is doing a good amount, so I know +1 will do a pretty sizable amount of damage to this Charizard. I'm like, yeah, that's a good amount of damage to the Charizard. It's looking pretty good. I am taking this Life Orb Recall though, but I am pretty sure I live a Heat Wave from the Charizard, so that is a predicament they are in. I don't know if they have Helping Hand, but I am going to scout for Helping Hand, and I'm just going to go for Dazzling Gleam because if they do go for the Heat Wave, I'll still get a Dazzling Gleam off. I still think it's completely fine at the end. So want to see what move they decide. Hey, I'm going to go for it. The Clefable also has to fear the Encore, so want to get some damage if they decide, hey, I'm going to go Iron Hands. If I'm going to go into the Walkie Awake, I get to punish it with Dazzling Gleam, and I just get to click Dazzling Gleam now. They stay in, which is smart, as I do go for the Protect with the Golden Go, as the Charizard decides, hey, I reveal Air Slash to secure the knockout into the Golden Go, assuming it connects. I'm like, okay, get Dazzling Gleam off. and Charizard doesn't go down, but it looks like it will go down the next turn. They go for a Moonblast, double up into Golden Go, I guess just in case that they missed the Air Slash and to ensure the knockout. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty decent. I was debating about switching out, but I'm like, okay, I'd rather just attack realistically, because Golden Go has done the job I really need to do. Get rid of a ton of HP on the board, force the Terra on the Clefable. It has done the job. Air Slash takes the knockout on Golden Go. I'm like, thank you for your service, Golden Go. And yeah, it's looking like a pretty good spot. As Dazzling Gleam does knock out the Charizard, and I'm like, beautiful. I don't have to worry about Charizard anymore. That's one Pokemon that's faster and annoying. Moonblast's gonna come out in a Scream Tail, and yes, it's looking pretty nice. I get to go Tinglu now because I get to go for like taunts or trapping with Sand Tomb, reduce the damage that the Scream Tail is gonna be taking. I'm like, okay, just make sure I don't mess this up, because Iron Hands did take a lot of damage. However, they have access to Drain Punch. I do go into Tinglu here, and I'm trying to think about, okay, how do I want to set this up? And I think the best place just to protect the Tinglu, the Scream Tail's not threatened, just get some Dazzling Gleam damage, because I'm like, okay, maybe Dazzling Gleam into Iron Hands plus a switch out after Vessel of Ruin's gone can two-shot the Iron Hands. And I was like, okay, that's probably the best play, but Iron Hands makes a smart protect play here, which is very smart on their end, as I will protect the Tinglu, as I was fearing the Drain Punch, and the Clefable is going to take the Dazzling Gleam, but I'm not doing enough damage to the Clefable realistically, which is a problem. The Vessel of Ruin also working on my Scream Tail. Moonblast comes out of Scream Tail, and it's like, okay, that's a bit weird, because now they can follow me, so this is a bit strange. And I'm like, okay, what do I want to do? Do I want to disable the Clefable's Moonblast or follow me that's coming out? Do I want to risk the Encore into Iron Hands? But I'm like, okay, let's just get the damage. And they play super aggressive here, which was super smart here, as they go for the Drain Punch. No follow me, didn't care about the Encore, no switch outs, and a really good Drain Punch for them on the Iron Hands. And like, that's bad. Moonblast's gonna come out into Tinglu, but I am still gonna be able to eat up the attack. And the unfortunate part is I missed the Sand Tomb, which is really bad for me, because if the Iron Hands took the Sand Tomb damage, I'm pretty sure the game was over if I just clicked Dazzling Gleam, because the Iron Hands is just on the timer. They have no way to self-heal, so I'm like, that's really bad. This ended up becoming the worst spot possible. I'm like, how am I getting out of this? So I'm trying to figure out, all right, how am I working this out? They go for Protect with the Iron Hands. I'm like, yeah, this is still not super great for me. They scout my Tinglu's Protect, which is fine, as the Clefable. I do get the Encore off in the Clefable. Like, my idea here to get out of this position is to Encore the Clefable so it can't go for Follow Me, and then I could Draco Meteor with the Tatsugiri later on. They go for the Moonblast and the Scream Tail. And the special attack drop is really rough, because this endgame against Walking Away could actually become really terrifying now. And I'm like, okay, I have to go for the Sand Tomb once again. I will go for it into the Clefable slot, because I'm expecting the Iron Hands to switch, because it just protected and I can Encore. But really smart by Nexus, just going for to stay in here, getting the call right. And I'm like, okay, this is not great. At least I get the Encore disable off into the Clefable, but next turn I have to make a read, because it comes down to, I think, Clefable switching. If Clefable switches out into the Walking Wake, I do need to go for a Call and Draco Meteor to Wake. If the Clefable stays in, it will be struggling, and that's fine. So I could KO the Iron Hand. So it comes down to who I read. Like, they're playing super aggressive. I'm gonna read I'm just gonna read the fact that they're gonna go for no switches here. No switches. I don't think they're gonna protect the Iron Hands. I do think that ideally, I think it would be the Walking Wake would not be coming in, but I'm willing to risk it at this point. The Sand Tomb miss was unfortunate, because I could have set up a really perfect endgame for Tatsugiri, because the Iron Hands would not have got as much damage. But at this point, gotta figure out my outs, and I do get the call right. The Dazzling Gleam and the Clefable, as I do get the Draco Meteor, and I do land into the Iron Hands. So Iron Hands goes down, and like, please struggle hit the Scream Tail, because if you hit the Scream Tail, I can mirror coat the Walking Awake just fine. So it has no moves it can go for. It's Encore disabled. Goes for the struggle. Does unfortunately land in my Tatsugiri, which does break my Focus Sash, which is the important part. So The Fable goes down, but I still think this endgame is still really solid for me with the Walking Way because I have pretty much the perfect typings out. The Tatsugiri can only be damaged by a Dragon type move, and they need to pressure the Tatsugiri otherwise they get knocked out. But also the fact that the Screamtail is immune to Dragon type attacks, and they want to go for a Fire or Water move onto Screamtail. Tatsugiri will be eating that up, so I think my best play here is just Draco Meteor and go for Encore in the Walking Way. They're either locking into a Dragon move, which means they can't hit the Screamtail in the end game, or they're locking into a Water / Fire move. Realistically, it's a fire move because you won't be able to use a Water move with the Storm Drain Tatsugiri out. But if they do go for like a Flamethrower, it won't hit the Tatsugiri. So they go for Protect the Scout for Protect from my Tatsugiri most likely, which is fine. Again, I think the end game still comes down the same. I go for Draco Meteor and Encore. And I'm like, okay, this is perfectly acceptable. Draco Meteor are going to come out and Tatsugiri, pick up the knockout. But a -2 special attack is very massive because Screamtail, especially defensive, but now definitely takes a Hydro Steam or Flamethrower easily. And I get the Encore off into the Walking Wake. So it could not touch my Screamtail for a couple of turns. But the fact that they're faster with the Walking Wake does make it a little bit concerning because if they stall out the Encores, it's actually a problem. And here I think my best out is go for Disable. They had 3 turns locked in Draco Meteor. One of them is going to be used up this turn while I'm using Disable. Then they have 2 turns where they're locked in and forced to struggle. That means they're taking 25% recoil each turn, so that's 50%. And during those 2 turns, I will be able to get a single target Dazzling Gleam off each of those turns. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure if you're running max speed Wake, I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to get more than 25% on each hit of Dazzling Gleam because a single target, even with the special attack decrease from the Moonblast, I just don't think Wake is built like that. So Struggle going to come out from the Screamtail, not doing that much damage, and I am going to be able to get a Dazzling Gleam off into the Wake. And yeah, as I expected, I was doing way more damage. So I'm able to go for another combination. They are struggling on these last turns, but the Screamtail will be the last one standing, and the Dazzling Gleam will secure us the victory versus Nexus in a 2-0 fashion. Very scary, very scary. I think the Charizard was definitely rougher, and the fact that they actually brought a fast Walking Wake was a problem. So yep, but somehow able to make it through and go 4-1 into SPL, and that should secure a playoff spot. Just gonna play one more, I guess, to be safe, but I'm pretty sure that every four wins is guaranteed, as well as yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm just playing for the buy at this point. But GG's to Nexus. Not really super happy about like the entire prep, but I'm really proud of the Tinglu Screamtail. They both showing their first appearance in the SPL for the Jubilife Piplups and putting in a ton of work. The rest, we'll see how well they do in the future weeks of the SPL, and hopefully we do guarantee playoffs, I think. So we should be able to see more of them and hopefully do well. But again, go check out Nexus and the rest of the coaches in the SPL down below in the description, and subscribe to the channel for more VGC content as always.